Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and of course the number one story in the world right now is the coronavirus for some legitimate and illegitimate reasons. We're going to break down a whole bunch of stories, some of the latest news regarding the coronavirus. Today, obviously, it's the yearly plague. Every year we have, a major plague or outbreak that everyone has to get scared of, and there's some legitimate reasons to be concerned, but scared, I think there's a difference between concern and fear. And we're going to get into a lot of the issues that are legitimate issues in this video, as well as debunk some of the issues that are being spread by the media that are just absolute nonsense. Let's start off with this article out of Zero Hedge, as it says, coronavirus geometric progression suggests 100,000 infections in a week. And as this article goes into, Bianco Research mapped out the geometric progression of coronavirus cases. We are on track for 100K in a week. And you could see the chart there. It's kind of a hockey stick chart. Jim Bianco shared some of his coronavirus research with me yesterday. I asked if he would make the article public. Thanks to Bianco, please consider coronavirus growth rates and market reactions. And as it says, summary, the growth in coronavirus infections has continued along geometric progression for the last 12 days. Should it continue along this path, infection cases could approach 100,000 in a week. And it shows comments. The following charts were constructed from the daily update from the National Health Commission of the People's Republic of China. And there's another chart there. And as it continues, it says, the blue line in the chart below shows the actual number of reported coronavirus cases stands at 4,515 as of January 27th. The orange line is a simple progression that assumes a 53% increase in the cases every day, or one person infects 2 to 2.5 people. So it is a simple multiplier, nothing more. This is known as R0, R-0, or the infection rate. Note the chart is a log scale. The reported number of infections perfectly track this simple multiplier. This is how viral infections growth along a geometric path. If this track is not altered, the number of reported cases will top 16,000 by Friday. And you could see that chart below here are people under quarantine, the inventory for future infection growth. So we're seeing a lot of tests done throughout China as well, which we're going to go into shortly. And officially, there are a lot of cases under observation. As this article says, number of coronavirus cases surpass SARS as China holds 60K under observation. And there have been massive crackdowns. There have been quarantines. There have been evacuations. We can see this article out of CNN here. No, CNN. But it says, U.S. evacuees from China land at California military base as coronavirus outbreak grows. And you can see this video here of this guy in China and Beijing getting tested. He was in the shower and then suddenly he gets a bang on the door and it's police in Beijing wanting to test his temperature. And he was like, all right, then that's kind of a strange situation going there. There's a lot of information coming out regarding, the reality of the situation there, because there is a lot of evidence that there was a massive cover-up happening in China. As it says in this tweet here from the Epoch Times China Insider, it says, imagine being a Wuhan citizen. They can't get any medical treatments. They can't even get a diagnosis. They only sit and wait to die. And it says a Wuhan citizen speaks out about the coronavirus and says the symptoms of the virus do not match what authorities are saying. And obviously he takes a big risk upon himself because you cannot speak out about many things in China, especially in the current technocratic state that they're in. It's one of the most Orwellian societies in the world. And on top of that, Orwellian is to, undercut it, really. We're talking about a civilization that is largely more like 2084 rather than 1984. Moving on to the next article here, it says out of the New York Post, Jack Ma donates $14 million to help develop coronavirus vaccine. But a lot of people are saying it will be as much as a year before they're able to develop a proper vaccine for it. But a lot of people are saying there were patents already made for a vaccine. But as we reported recently in a past video, it actually shows that wasn't actually a vaccine. It was the idea for a vaccine that was on one of the World Health Organization websites and the patent websites, and there's no evidence that there actually is a vaccine as of yet. But it wouldn't surprise me if, as I mentioned before, China weaponized this issue and they're using it as a way to cause, it's a eugenics operation, kill as many people as you can, inject a bunch of people with vaccines, spread, the big pharma monopoly even further. And I believe that we've seen that enough times at this point to kind of question whether that is the case. Now, a lot of people are talking about the evacuees. And I want to look at this article out of Zero Hedge that says Russia, latest country to curb travel with China. And they're one of many countries that have been saying, we don't want this virus here, so how about you guys just stay out? And there's two sides to this, because okay, recently I'm in Las Vegas. I was at the Bellagio Hotel. Vegas is one of the most popular places in the world for tourism, and obviously the Bellagio is one of the top places in Las Vegas for tourism. So walking around there was a massive Chinese New Year celebration. They had shut down a lot of the Chinese New Year celebrations in China itself, but here in Las Vegas, one of the most toured cities in the world, you have this massive Chinese New Year celebration, and there were thousands and thousands and thousands of Chinese nationals in the city for this New Year celebration. Many people left China for this event because, it's one of the biggest actual Chinese New Year's events in the world in Las Vegas. And I couldn't help but kind of feel like it was kind of ill-advised. I mean, look, the chances of getting it are minuscule from Chinese people, from anyone. It's very, very small, the chances of getting it. But I'm walking around, and it's like almost like they're purposely trying to spread it. I'm walking around the Bellagio, and there's all these people in masks, and they're all coughing. And obviously, as many know, Chinese tourism is huge all over the world. Wherever you go, you'll see, buses full of Chinese tourists. It's a huge movement that's happening. I don't know how to explain it, but there's more people from China traveling at this time of year than any other time of year due to the Chinese New Year and major events all over the world. So I couldn't help but think like, I'm just gonna hold my breath. And it's this weird reflex that people have when these kind of things happen. Like, I've been very skeptical of it. I've been saying, probably really overblown and fear-mongering. I mean, we've seen this so many times before. But with that said, I'm still kind of looking around going, this doesn't seem exactly like the best situation to be had right now. Then people leave there, and it's almost like they're trying to get people infected. Like, let's put people in this hotel where all these people from all over the world go, and hope to see it spread a bit more and cause another epidemic, which causes the government to be able to step in, martial law, quarantines, vaccines, all sorts of stuff, big pharma monopolies propped up. Look, I believe that we should be concerned about this very much so, because I believe that governments have a history of weaponizing these things and causing all these problems. But with that said, I also think that we shouldn't be cowering under a desk or inside our house and being agoraphobic or something like that in this situation. I feel like there is so much more to this than meets the eye. And remember, Ebola was all over the news. There's H1N1, H2N9, Zika virus, SARS, obviously, which is kind of the same as the coronavirus. We saw so many other ones: foot and mouth disease, Lyme disease, and the list goes on. And it makes me wonder, are we going to be fed fear-mongering every single year with a new virus that we should all be scared of, and then we kind of give up a little bit more freedoms every single time? I don't know. I honestly really don't know. I'm a little bit more concerned about it right now than I was like a week ago when I was first reporting on it. But nonetheless, I do believe a lot of fear-mongering from the media plays into it, and we're going to go more into that in a moment. But as this Zero Hedge article says, coronavirus chaos forces Starbucks to shutter almost half its stores in China. There's a lot of concern with the big businesses, and it's actually seriously affecting the economy and could actually stop. It'd be the thing, the domino to fall to cause a major domino effect with the supply chain out of China, which, there's been a lot of trade wars and, instability between the countries regarding tariffs and sanctions and all sorts of stuff like that. And it could be, this outbreak could actually cause a major domino effect here. And as you can see in this article out of Zero Hedge, coronavirus could shock world into recession, Stephen Roach warns. And as it says, former Morgan Stanley Asia chairman Stephen Roach published an op-ed on Monday, January 27th via Project Syndicate, and also appeared on CNBC's Trading Nation to warn about how the global economy could already be in a period of vulnerability where an exogenous shock such as a coronavirus could be the trigger for the next worldwide recession. And as it continues here, it says, Rock reminds us that a shock of some sort is usually the cause of most recessions that propagates through the economy. For several years, the Federal Reserve's tightening, which started in late 2017 and ended in summer of 2019, slowed the global economy. Then the trade war blew up complex supply chains and weakened developed and emerging economies even more from the first quarter of 2018 through the third quarter of 2019. These two forces opened a cycle of vulnerability for the global economy that would make it susceptible to a shock. However, it was anyone's guess what that shock would be until now, and I quote, with the world economy operating dangerously close to stall speed, the confluence of ever-present shocks and sharply diminished trade cushion raises serious questions about the financial markets' increasingly optimistic view of global economic prospects, Roach said via his op-ed in Project Syndicate. On Trading Nation, Roach said big shocks for weak economies could trigger a recession. And it continues here. He cautioned that coronavirus could remain a problem in the months ahead. It's a frightening outbreak, especially when it spreads this rapidly. And you could see a big part of the spread in this map here, where you could see the darker is the more extreme, and the lighter, obviously, the less extreme. It shows 4,587 people with it and 106 deaths. I think it's a lot more at this point. But anyway, as it continues here, it says, so far, more than a dozen Chinese cities are locked down. Tens of millions of people are confined to their homes, and factories and businesses are closed as the world's second largest economy grinds to a halt. And perhaps Roach has found the root cause of the next global recession, coronavirus. As he ominously concludes, it won't take much to knock this over the edge. Historically, the rapid expansion of cross-border trade has been an important part of the global growth cushion that shields the world economy from all too frequent shocks. From 1990 to 2008, annual growth in world trade was fully 82% faster than world GDP growth. Now, however, reflecting the unusually sharp post-crisis slowdown in global trade growth, the cushion has shrunk dramatically to just 13% over the 2010 to 2019 period, with the world economy operating dangerously close to stall speed. The confluence of ever-present shocks and sharply diminished trade cushion raises serious questions about financial markets' increasingly optimistic view of global economic prospects. Now, I do want to kind of go into a few things that have been heavily misunderstood that we talked about recently, and I think it's important to talk about again, as well as some other issues that are coming up, which is, as I mentioned before, this Yahoo News article, China's coronavirus could have same death rate as Spanish flu outbreak in the UK. Now, while the death rate is climbing since this article a little bit, it's around 2 to 4%, the death rate, and they compare it to the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918, which killed, obviously, about 20 to 50 million people. It was a terrible thing, but we have to remember in 1918, people were less hygienic. And also, you have to look at the Ebola death rate, which is 60 to 90%. In the same way that they're fear-mongering these titles and saying, oh my God, this is like the same, death rate as a Spanish flu epidemic. There's multiple factors that play into that. I mean, if we were to go by that, then Ebola should have killed all of us. And people say, well, it's a faster acting illness, Ebola. Okay, sure, but it still spread like wildfire all over the world. And, people were always kept getting concerned about how, people were riding bikes down the street that were somehow connected to a person who was connected to a person who was connected to someone who had Ebola. And they had news cameras everywhere remember the shock horror, stuff happening where they said this could be the plague that kills humanity, and the mainstream media is like spreading this crazy fear-mongering is so irresponsible. And, it pushes people, again, into subservience. And that's exactly where the state wants people. And this could actually be helpful in monetary system, monetary crisis as they switch over to more totalitarian technocratic systems. Anyway, the point is, 1918 flu epidemic, that was in a time when people still threw sewage out their windows. And on top of that, we have these issues like the Ebola, which was much more extreme. And then you look at the coronavirus, and it's minuscule in comparison, though eerily reminiscent of movies like the film Contagion, which a lot of people have bringing a lot of notice to lately. Now, there's a lot of talk about where this virus came from. Was it weaponized? Was it produced naturally from eating bat soup? And I really doubt that it's the crazy foods that the Chinese people often eat being the reason behind this outbreak, because of course these things have been going on for a long time. Bat soup and koala bears is horrible, but it's been happening for a very long time. A lot of crazy markets in China for food, and one has to note that there were epidemics that were coming out of things like Plum Island by New York and Lyme, Connecticut, and spreading into cattle country, first via tourism from New York City and into the rest of the country and then the world, that have gone back many years. There's been a lot of research done into how the Plum Island facility labs had produced all these illnesses and accidentally let it out into the public, and then suddenly had a vaccine for everyone to take for it. Pharmaceutical companies made a fortune. People got sick. A bunch of people died. It was tragic. And, one has to wonder, who benefits, cui bono? And when you have these things happening in the past, it doesn't necessarily correlate with the future, but we have to ask some questions. And one of the big articles that's been making a lot of headlines lately is how possibly this Chinese coronavirus outbreak actually came from Canada, from a Winnipeg lab, and the Chinese stole it and weaponized it. And, this article from Zero Hedge called "Did China Steal Coronavirus from Canada and Weaponize It?" It talks about how it was developed after they found a guy who was sick in the Netherlands, and the Netherlands traded this information with this Winnipeg, Canada lab, and that the Chinese somehow got a hold of it and brought it in through a mysterious shipment in March 2019, and that it was weaponized by the Chinese. Anyway, there is no actual evidence of this. There's some interesting information that kind of does seem as though it could be the case. There's some information regarding, the Chinese stealing it and weaponizing it that could very much be true, but we have to not be speculative and focus only on the details. Now, I know this is a terrible state-run news site, the CBC, and they make a living off of lying and stealing from taxpayers, but it does actually make a good case of how this story is fake regarding the online claims that Chinese scientists stole coronavirus from Winnipeg lab, and that there's no factual basis. So as much as that's going around, let's be vigilant in our facts here and be very careful what we share, including the patent information that people were sharing regarding the vaccine, which turned out to be false as well. I know there's a lot of noise. I know there's a lot of confusion, and I know there's a lot of fear. And we need to try to be as responsible as we can with this information, and very likely the Chinese government is weaponizing it. Very likely the U.S. government might even weaponize it. We're seeing it in British Columbia, Canada, as well as in the U.K. and Australia. It's all over the place, and it's a big concern. And it does appear almost as if it's being forcefully spread during the Chinese New Year celebrations, where Chinese people are traveling all over the world to all these different places. But that doesn't mean every time you see a Chinese person run away and get scared. I think it comes down to a very simple thing. Wash your hands, and be aware that one of the number one ways that illnesses are spread is by the air, so breathing around people that are coughing and sick. So just be vigilant with that kind of stuff. Don't be going on buses and licking the seats or whatever. I mean, it goes without saying. And also remember, it's also cold and flu season right now. So there's a lot of things that aren't coronavirus, most of it not coronavirus, that are spreading a lot. And then people have panic attacks and freak out and hide under, again, duck and cover. It's just, I think it's not productive. I think that we should be vigilant, but not be scared for our lives and begging the government, especially, to help us in this situation. It very likely could be out of the news within a few weeks. I think that there's a good chance it might just be a major distraction story. So I want you guys watching this video to comment below and tell us what you think about this story. Is this a distraction? Is this fear-mongering? Is this a bigger case than people are telling us? What about the, cover-ups in China and, them knowing about this virus and willingly sending people out into the streets after they knew they had it? What's going on, guys? Let us know below the video. We are trying to break down the story as much as possible, but again, there's so much noise coming out of this story, and it's impossible to put our finger on it. All we know is that it's convenient timing for the news, cutting out a lot of other things in the news, and also it's unfortunately being covered up by other, by governments around the world. So that makes us question that factor. And obviously, there's a lot of talk about getting the vaccines out, quarantines, martial law, all that kind of stuff. And I think we should be concerned and vigilant with all of this information that we're getting. But again, it's just so much noise right now. So anyway, I appreciate everyone joining us today. Make sure to check those links below, because this video will definitely be demonetized like almost everything else we ever post. Shadow banned like crazy. We don't get viewers anymore because YouTube doesn't allow us to reach people anymore. We used to get 72% of our views through the suggested feed on the side of screens, and now they only suggest mostly Fox News, CNN, MSNBC on the side of the screens, and we only get 1.2% of our views from suggested videos, and most of it's just miraculously from things like, well, our own videos, first of all, and on top of that, from like makeup reviews that have nothing to do with the content of our videos, because they know they can suggest it to a few people, but it won't be seen because most people won't click on it. Susan Woznicki, the CEO of YouTube, came in and said that they brought down the views on controversial content, quote unquote, by 70% since last January. It's been much more than that for us, about 85% for us. And on top of that, we're dealing with about 97% demonetization. So make sure to check those links below. Teespring store for Wham. Get your Wham merchandise. It helps support us. Patreon, subscribe. Star, just $1 or more a month makes a huge difference. $5 tier and up gets you subscriber-only content. Of course, there's GoFundMe. There's cryptocurrencies that are linked below, and Float.app, the future of social media. That's flote.app, where they're replacing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one with encrypted private messaging, plus monetization on videos. There's super chats on the live streams, in cryptocurrency, pledging, and all that kind of stuff. No algorithm to tell you what you can or cannot see. Help us out any way you can. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Make sure to press like, share it. Let's get away from this shadow banning. Join these other platforms, BitChute, Minds, Instagram, anything. Basically, back up on every platform if possible. But make sure to press like and share the video, because we're losing about 1,000 subscribers a month on average, and we're breaking even just enough to not completely go under 136,000 subscribers, which we've been stuck on for almost half a year now. It's terrible. We gotta step up, and we need to fight back as free individuals who want free information online and want to try our best anyway to see through the noise. Anyway, appreciate everyone joining us. Comment below what you think, and until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. Like what you see here at Wham, don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We cannot do it without you guys. Every donation is extremely, extremely appreciated, as we're getting incredibly shadow banned. We've lost 80% of our audience since January of 2019 and counting. They are ripping us apart here on YouTube, and the only thing we could do in the meantime as we prepare for the next big step is to ask for help from the viewers that support our free information that we try to post on a daily basis. You can also find us on Subscribestar, where just $1 a month, that's all it takes, $1 a month is all it takes to truly make a huge difference. If everyone gave $1 a month, it would change everything for independent media, and we could win this information war, and we can defeat the mainstream medias eventually. And of course, on Subscribestar, we post subscriber-only content that you'll only see on Subscribestar. So make sure to pledge there, become a patron. That makes a huge difference, guys. And also, don't forget to check out our Bitcoin address below in the comments and description, as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also, Don't forget to subscribe to us on The Alternatives. We will likely be deleted by YouTube in the next 2 years. It's already happening on a vast scale, so make sure to find us on flote.app. That's flote.app. At Josh Sigurdson, as well as at WAM, W-A-M. Flote.app is replacing every social media, and I mean, it's just incredible the opportunities it provides for not just creators, but for the average person who wants to get away from these nannies telling them what they can or cannot see. They plan to replace Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon. You could subscribe to us on Flote and pledge with cryptocurrency. It's really innovative. We are also on BitChute at World Alternative Media, as well as so many others, Minds, PocketNet. You can find us at World Alternative Media on Instagram. There's many options. And finally, don't forget to join us at Anarchapulco 2020, the famous event, the best liberty event known to mankind, other than perhaps Anarcho Vegas 2020. There are 2 major events coming up that we are extremely excited about, and you can use promo code WAM, that's W-A-M, and save 10% on your tickets to these legendary conferences. There's so many amazing people speaking there. You won't want to miss it. So make sure to support in any way you can, even if it's just sharing our videos, pressing like, pressing to be notified. Anything helps, folks. You are the change you wish to see. Thanks for watching, everyone. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.